sister called my son a mistake at her baby shower, so I revealed she's actually our cousin, and that she's my mom's ex's secret baby that my dad never knew about. My sister, Melissa, 28F, and I, 31F, already never had a very good relationship, and we mostly just attended each other's events and stuff for the sake of appearances. But at her baby shower recently, she made a very horrible remark about my son, and I ended up spilling the beans on her and basically just revealed that she's not even family. This is something that I had known for many years, and it finally came out, and now things are going really badly for my family and they're blaming me for it. I don't think that it's fair for them to do that, especially when they have never stood up for me when they had to. I have been used to her sly jibes and stuff about my marriage for quite some time now, and usually I just ignore it because I know that she's doing it for attention and I don't want to give her the satisfaction of getting a response out of me. But recently, she dragged my son into it, and that was the last straw. For context, I have a 3-year-old son with my husband, but we got married just last year. And I don't think it's as problematic or shameful as she makes it out to be either, because I think we made a good decision since my husband and I had only been together for 6 or 7 months when I conceived my son. We were not ready to get married at the time, so we decided to take it slow. And instead of getting married because I was pregnant, we decided to continue seeing each other and take things at our own pace. Things worked out well because even after I found out about the pregnancy, we kept getting to know each other better, and then, after my son was born, he moved in with us. Then, after having stayed together for quite a while, we decided to get married last year. I don't know how this is any of her concern, but she just likes to make comments about this and make me out to be some sort of immoral or unethical person just because I had a child out of wedlock, which is such an outdated idea that I don't even feel the need to dignify it with a response. It's not like I couldn't have said anything if I wanted to, because trust me, if she had any idea as to how she became a part of the family, she never would have had the audacity to talk to me that way. But unfortunately, I never spoke up about it because I did not want to hurt my mom. I accidentally found out some things a couple of years ago, but by then, my parents were happy. And Melissa had already been a part of our family for her entire life, and my mom literally went down on her knees and begged me not to spill the beans on her big secret. So out of respect for her, I didn't say anything for a very long time, but this time, at the baby shower, I just couldn't hold back anymore. Before getting into Melissa and her thing, I feel like I have to mention what happened at the baby shower. So once everyone had arrived and we were all talking and stuff, Melissa stood very close to me with a group of her friends and started talking real loud. She was telling them about how she had known her husband for 3 years before she got married to him, and they waited for 2 years before they decided to get pregnant. After explaining the timeline to them, she started telling them that she had planned her future with her husband very carefully because she wanted to make sure that everything was on track and they did not have any surprises. Because the last thing that she wanted was for her first child to be a mistake, since that would really derail her plans and she didn't want to end up like a certain somebody. I guess it's easy to understand why it was the last straw for me, because before this, at least she had the decency to keep her insults very tame and it was very easy for me to ignore them. But this one was not like that. This time, what she said was very disgusting, and the implication that my son had been a mistake who had derailed my life, I did not like it. Besides, my husband and my son were right there beside me and they had heard everything as well, which really upset me even more. So I just snapped and addressed her directly, and then I told her that she wouldn't be talking so much if she knew about her own story, and then just got into it before my mom could stop me. Very frankly, I wasn't even thinking about how this would reflect on my mom, because for so many years, even though I had kept a secret to myself, she had never stood up for me or told Melissa to cut it out. So I just went ahead full throttle, and that's how everybody found out that Melissa isn't actually my sister. She's my cousin, and my mom adopted her when she was 6 months old. And I don't think that the guests would have found that so scandalous if that was the worst of it, but unfortunately, there was more. My aunt, being Melissa's real biological mother, was still fine, but it was the identity of the father that really had people shocked. Melissa's dad, and a huge part of the reason my mom adopted her, was my mom's ex-boyfriend from high school and the only man she had dated before she met my dad. The cherry on top was the fact that my mom had basically manipulated my father into adopting Melissa by telling him that her sister was just 22 and she was not ready to take on the responsibility of being a mother, so she made it seem like she was doing something very kind, and that's how they ended up adopting Melissa. But the darker truth was that my mom just wanted an excuse to stay in touch with her ex, and up until a couple of years back, I know for a fact that she was still in touch with him about this. I don't want to get into the details of it, but basically, my mom and her ex broke up after high school, and then, in college, she met my dad and started dating him, and after graduation, she got married to him. But I guess they were never really able to get over each other, and soon enough, her ex hooked up with his sister, which is messy as it is. I don't even know how that ended up happening, but that's none of my business. Anyway, They were involved with each other for a couple of months, and that's how my aunt ended up pregnant with Melissa, but she wasn't ready for a child, so she requested my mom to adopt the baby. The problem is that my mom pretty much already had her hands full with me because I was 3 at the time, which is pretty young, and she wasn't ready for a second child. So that's when her ex decided to step in. He told her that it was his baby and he requested her, and then she finally gave in. She somehow convinced my dad to adopt Melissa, and that's how she became a part of the family. Obviously, I don't really remember any of this because, like I said, I was just 3 years old back then, so even I had no clue that Melissa was not my biological sister. She had been adopted. We were both raised to believe that we were bio sisters, and after my aunt passed away in a car accident 3 years after Melissa was born, there was nobody to contradict our parents either. So we grew up believing that she was my sister until my mom accidentally left her phone unlocked a couple of years back, and I ended up reading a few of her messages while she was talking to her ex. Back then, I did not know that it was her ex. I just knew that it was some guy asking about Melissa, talking about how much his daughter had grown up and trying to grab lunch with my mom, and also telling her to bring Melissa with her because he believed that it was finally time for her to find out the truth. My mom hadn't replied, but I scrolled up and I saw that she had been in touch with this guy for a while, and I found it very suspicious, so I confronted her about it, and that's how the entire story came out. My dad was obviously aware of the fact that Melissa was his sister-in-law's daughter, not his wife's, but she had been very clever and excluded the fact that it was actually her ex's daughter as well. The two sisters had told my dad that some random guy she had a one-night stand with was actually the father of the baby, and that didn't raise any alarms with my dad, so he was blissfully unaware of everything until I brought it up at the baby shower. This shocked Melissa, and to top it off, I decided to taunt her about how she had made an even bigger mistake than my son, so she should probably look into her own life story first. It was intentional, I won't lie, and I knew that it was going to cause a lot of trouble for everyone in my family, but I honestly couldn't care less about it. And right now, Melissa is not talking to my parents and has even rescinded their invitation to the wedding. Back when I left the baby shower, she looked pretty furious and she was having a hysterical temper tantrum, so this isn't surprising. However, I really didn't see my parents' divorce coming because apparently, after the baby shower, my mom and my dad got into a really big fight at the baby shower itself about the whole thing with her ex. Because of course, he had no clue about that detail, and for the past couple of years, even after I had found out about it, I hadn't breathed a word of it because my mom had promised me that she had nothing going on with him. She even told me that the only reason she had responded to him recently was because he had been pestering her for months about Melissa, and being a parent herself, she didn't think it was right to continue ignoring him. Apart from that, she told me that whatever feelings she had had for him at the beginning of her marriage were gone, and now, all she loved and valued was my dad. So for the sake of that, I kept her secret, but now, I don't think that I should care because clearly, they didn't care about me, which is why they never stood up for me when Melissa was blatantly insulting and humiliating in public. Part of it is my fault too. I never stood up for myself either, but that's just because I did not want to create any drama and embarrass my family. I knew that at the end of the day, they were going to try and blame me, which is why my mom is going out of her way right now to pin everything on me. She's been sending me text after text, telling me that I've ruined everything for her, because her daughter isn't speaking to her and her husband has moved out and is demanding a divorce, all because she tried to do something good for her sister, and she's claiming that my little ego-driven outburst ruined everything. Believe it or not, I do feel a little guilty because it's true that her life is pretty much in shambles right now, and that's just because I lost my temper. Of course, none of my friends or my husband thinks that I did anything wrong, but still, I feel like I need to get a second opinion. Ida for revealing my mom's secrets and ruining her life out of anger? Edit, guys, I'm not really sure about what exactly went wrong with my mom's relationship, and I also didn't think it was relevant in the context of the story, so I didn't include it. But anyway, this is what she told me. She said that she had to break up with her ex because they couldn't do the whole distance thing and they were going to different colleges after high school. After she met my dad, she really liked him, but she still had feelings for her ex, so things were a bit complicated. Eventually, she chose my dad because she thought that he could provide a more stable lifestyle compared to her ex, who was more on the party animal side of things. And from what my mom told me, it was apparently at some party that her ex bumped into my sister and they ended up hooking up. Of course, she was not happy about it in the beginning, and that's why she was very hesitant to adopt their daughter, but even after she got married, she felt like she still had some lingering feelings for her ex, which is why he was able to convince her to adopt Melissa, but she knew that my dad wouldn't like it if he got to find out about it, so she kept it a secret from him. Now this is whatever my mom had told me when I confronted her about the messages, but you guys can take it with a pinch of salt because things might have been different. It's just that I don't know anybody else who would be able to tell me the truth, so my mom's word is all that I have to go on right now. Anyway, Since a lot of you have been asking about what exactly went on with my mom, dad, her sister and her ex, this is basically the gist of whatever she told me. Update 1. Hi, thanks for the comments and stuff. I really needed to hear that because I had been feeling very guilty about whatever was going on with my mom, but now I don't, not so much. It's been a week since the baby shower and my sister is still not speaking to anyone from the family, but they only have themselves to blame for that. My parents are both upset with me, but mostly my mom, because a couple of days ago, my dad finally sent over the divorce papers. He's been living separately ever since they fought at the baby shower, and until recently, I hadn't blocked my mother, so she had kept messaging me and telling me that she blames me for everything that I had ruined her life. I don't know what she was expecting me to do. It's not like I can take back everything that I had said at the baby shower, and all of a sudden, people would start pretending like everything was normal. Blaming me was only a waste of time for her, but I guess she just needed a place to vent, so she kept accusing me of ruining everything for her. Anyway, I had been feeling bad, and a little confused, so I hadn't been able to block her, but then, after reading the comments here, and after speaking to everybody who loves me, I realized that I was doing the right thing. I had no reason to keep her secrets, especially when she never stood up for me, so she could be as mad as she wanted to. It hardly makes a difference to me anymore. I'm done covering up for her, and I don't care what happens with the family anymore. I don't have anything to do with them, they have never supported me in anything, and I'm just done. From now on, I'm just gonna keep focusing on my family, my husband, and my son, and that's it. Update 2. So it's been 2 weeks since the baby shower and my dad finally reached out to me today. Up until recently, he hadn't spoken to me directly, but I knew that he was also blaming me for everything that was going wrong. Thanks to a bunch of his relatives, who had texted me to let me know that they had felt very disappointed by my behavior and they didn't think that I was the kind of person who would cover up for my mom, especially regarding something so serious. So I knew that he had been bad-mouthing me as well, even though he hadn't exactly come out and said it to me directly like my mom had. That's why when he reached out to me, I had literally no interest in speaking to him. But he just kept calling me, from other numbers when I blocked his number, and after a while, I was forced to pick up the call since I knew that he was not going to let this go. When I answered, he told me that after everything that I had done, the least I could do was answer his phone calls and be civil to him. He said that he did not expect an apology from me because after all, I was my mom's daughter, but he still expected me to allow him to see his grandson. And under ordinary circumstances, I might have even agreed with him, just for the sake of it, but his tone was so nasty that instantly told him that I was not going to let my son see anybody from this family because pretty much everyone was just spineless and stupid. For so long, they had never liked me, and now they expected me to be the perfect daughter for them. No chance of that happening, and I told him that I did not want anything to do with him anymore. Before he had the chance to argue with me, I just hung up the phone quickly. But when I got home, I saw that my dad was out there, waiting for me. I had picked up my son from my mother-in-law's place since she is the one who takes care of him while my husband and I are away at work, so since my son was with me, I did not want to get into any dramatic situation or worse, a fight with my dad. Because my son obviously has no idea about all of the drama going on behind his back, he still loves his grandparents and he was very happy to see his grandpa after a long time. He literally ran towards him and my dad picked him up and they played for a while. We were standing outside my house since I had no idea what to do. It was a pretty awkward situation because I myself had no interest in speaking to my father or interacting with him in any way whatsoever, but it was clear that my son did not feel the same way. Anyway, after a couple of minutes, I unlocked the doors to the house and asked my son to go in and freshen up just so that I would have an excuse to speak to my dad in private. After my son left, I told my dad that my son was playing nice because he was just a child and had no idea what was going on with the family, but I'm not a child anymore and everybody in the family has really hurt me. So right now, I don't want to interact with anyone and I asked him to leave. He got really annoyed and told me that this behavior did not make any sense to him because as far as he is concerned, he was the man who had been betrayed the most, not only by his life, but also by me. So the least I could do was at least pretend to be apologetic, even if I didn't feel that way in real life. But the way I was acting, like I had nothing to be sorry about, it was making him question whether he and my mother had raised me correctly at all. I told him very clearly that if he felt betrayed, that's how I had been feeling for the past many years. So my behavior right now was just a culmination of those feelings, and if he didn't approve of that, tough, because I had learned to behave this way from my parents. All throughout the past couple of years, they had very expertly turned a blind eye to Melissa, constantly humiliating me every chance that she got. And nobody had the audacity to say anything to her, but now, all of a sudden, just because I've spilled a few secrets of the family, I'm the villain? Mind you, this is a family that has never cared for me much. So why exactly am I supposed to care about them? Obviously, My dad did not have an answer to these questions. He was stumped and I just went on speaking. I explained to him exactly how upset I had been when Melissa had made that comment about my son at the baby shower, calling him a mistake, and even then, nobody had stood up for me or my son. So right now, the whole act that he was putting up with really loving his grandson, I told him to just save it for somebody who would believe in it. I didn't doubt that my parents loved my son, everyone did because he's just a kid and it's easy to love him. But at the end of today, I knew that the golden child's grandson would probably mean more to them than my son would after he was born. Besides, if the father could not even bring himself to defend or just speak up and say something at least when his dear grandson was being referred to as a mistake, then I don't think he had any business overstepping my boundaries and coming to visit his grandson when I had made it very clear that I did not approve of it right now. That's all that I had to say, and he didn't seem to have anything to say in response or in defense, so I just walked to the door and shut it. I thought that he might try to come inside and meet my son again, but he didn't, and a couple of minutes later, when I looked through the window, he was gone. Later on, when my husband came back home, I told him everything about my interaction with my dad and he told me that this had been a long time coming. My parents really love to pretend like they have been hurt in the situation, but in reality, I'm the one who has been hurt day after day, and they have never cared about it. So this whole expectation from me, that I should always be a good daughter and put my family before myself every single time, had been drilled into my head subconsciously, but I'm breaking out of it now. I've already dealt with my father and made it clear to him that I'm not interested in speaking to him anymore, and if my mom contacts me again, she'll be hearing the same. Though, for now, I think she's keeping her distance from me, probably because she's busy with divorce and everything at the moment. Update 3, it has been close to 1 month since I last spoke to anybody from my family, and that was my dad. I kind of told him off in my last update, and since then, he has had the good sense to stay away from me. Melissa and I have obviously had no contact since the day of the baby shower, and I don't think any of us are worse off for it. After I had blocked my mom, she kept her distance from me as well, but then, a couple of days ago, I started receiving messages from some anonymous accounts on Facebook, and all of them were really hateful ones, telling me that I'm a horrible human being, absolutely worthless, and stuff like that. Initially, it was a bit off-putting and I thought it was somebody playing a prank on me, but I know that none of my friends have such a terrible sense of humor. At first, it did not even occur to me that it might have been my mom because it seemed like a really far-fetched possibility. But right now? I don't think that it's so far-fetched because last night, my husband told me that he had been receiving messages like that all day from the same accounts. The catch is that he hadn't been receiving those same messages, nobody was insulting him, but basically, he was being told terrible things about me. In fact, my mom had even taken it up a notch and had been telling my husband that I'm a cheater, I sleep around and whatnot. Obviously, none of it is true, she was just saying it to get under our skin, but as soon as we figured out that it might have been my mom, we just started thinking of the whole thing as something really pathetic, and it makes me feel ashamed that I'm even associated with this woman. This is my mom that we're talking about, she is in her 50s, for crying out loud, and this is not the kind of thing that she should be getting up to right now. And for what? Just because she hates me for spilling her secrets? It's just sad and pathetic, and it really goes to show that I didn't do anything wrong by telling everybody her reality. I don't even understand what she hopes to get from this, she's just being hateful for no reason, and this is a waste of her time and energy. If we want to, we can report her and put an end to this, but honestly, that will be a waste of our time and energy because we really don't care. This reflects badly on her, it has nothing to do with us. I can tell that she has taken everything that has been happening really hard because this is some juvenile crap that she's pulling off, and I wish I could say I was upset with her or angry about this, but I just feel bad for her because I can't believe that this is what my mom has been reduced to right now. Update 4, hi, so it's been a couple of months since my last update, and today, I heard from an aunt of mine that my parents finalized their divorce last week. I was attending an engagement party, and this was one of the first family events that I had attended ever since the baby shower. So I was kind of skeptical about going because I thought I might see my parents there, or worse, I might see Melissa. But I had to attend, I couldn't just skip it like every other event for the past couple of months, because it's my cousin who got engaged and she and I are kind of close. So she insisted that I come by, and I agreed to drop in, but when my aunt told me that neither of my parents were attending and Melissa had already declined the invitation, I stayed for longer, and she ended up telling me a lot of things about my family. I've not been in touch with them for a very long time, so I had no idea that the divorce had already been finalized. I feel kind of bad for them, but well, I knew this was coming. After my last update, where my mom had been sending me and my husband anonymous messages on Facebook to get on our nerves, we just ignored her for a couple of weeks and she stopped on her own. My dad did try to get in touch with me a couple of times, telling me that he really wanted to see his grandson, but I did not reply. I didn't have anything to say to these people anymore, so I've just completely cut them out of my life. My aunt told me that she hasn't spoken to my mom in a very long time, and since she is from my dad's side of the family, she doesn't really know what she has been up to, but she knows that my dad really misses me, and even more than me, he misses his grandson. I felt kind of bad about that, so I feel like I might let him come see my son in a couple of days. Not because I want to fix things with him, but because I know that my son misses his grandpa as well. Out of all his grandparents, he got along with his grandpa and he's been asking about him a lot. I guess I can put my anger aside for his sake now, at least.